Welcome to the farm.
Welcome back to the farm. I'm Dana with Just Kate's Day Farm, and today we are finally finishing our maple syrup. Last boil, last everything of the 2023 season, which has been so long since we tapped like 3 weeks earlier than we normally do. So today we're going to do our final boil, our filtering, our canning, and then we're also going to make maple powder. We use all of our leftover maple syrup from the previous year to make maple powder that we use into our coffees, onto our muffins that we make, any type of baked goods, ice cream, any way you would normally use sugar. So we'll get that going today as well, and let's get to it. So this is our syrup, so we're going to get this turned on. Being that we're pretty close to that 219 degrees already, I mean, granted it's not hot right now, but when I was boiling it a couple weeks ago, we were close to that 219, so I don't want to have it on super high where the bottom of the pot might start burning that syrup, which I've done in the past as well. So we turn that into maple powder. So we'll slowly warm this up to that 219 degrees, and then we'll do that filtering, and we'll get our mason jars going in here, get them unpackaged, wash them up, and then get them sanitized. Alright, so let's check in on our syrup and see what temperature we're at. So 175, so we need that 219, but we are getting there and we're going slowly so we don't burn our syrup. So while this gets warming up, let's get our mason jars into our pot here. I'm not going to turn this on yet because I want the mason jars to be hot when I put the hot maple syrup in there. And then as the jars cool, they'll self-seal. So let's get to it. Perfect. All right, so we have a nice boil going on here. Let's see what our temperature is going to. 215.6. So it may seem like, oh my goodness, we're so close. We only need like 4 more degrees. But these last like 3 degrees will take forever because you have so little moisture that's left. So you see steam coming off, but it's not like it's billowing steam like what we have outside. So these last little couple degrees can take even an hour, 2 hours. They take a long time, but we are getting there. So 215.6. So let's see what temperature that we're at. We are at 218.3. So that extra almost 1 degree can come quickly. So to be ready, I want to get the mason jars out of the boiling water because those are being sanitized. I want to get my filters ready for filtering the final step. So when that syrup's ready, we can just pull it and not let it cool off too quickly before we filter it. So we use these maple syrup filters. So they come woven and sewn on one side. So you want to flip these inside out or right side in. I don't know which way you want to say it. And you always want to do 2 of them, not just one, because settlements could come through these seams. So I have a seam here and a seam here. So I'm going to put them in so they're not next to each other. That way settlement doesn't go through. They'll filter them like this. We'll put them in strainer here. And then as the syrup filters, this first filter here will collect all the sediment and kind of get clogged up, and you'll see very little flow coming out. So we have extra filters ready, so we'll just change out this top filter, put a new one filter underneath so you have this constant rotation, so that way your syrup just keeps flowing. All right, we'll get our sanitized mason jars out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump some of the hot water from those mason jars into our bowl here, and then I'll put the mason jar lids and rings into here so they can sanitize and be more easily accessible when it's time to cap the mason jars. so have our rings and our caps that are all clean. Get them in some boiling water here. And right now it's bouncing between 219 and 218. So we're not 100% at that 219. I want to hold at 219, not going back and forth. So we are really, really close. So last time I did a filter, I used these little clothespins, and I didn't think these little clothespins were going to be quite strong enough to really hold on to the filter, but it worked really, really well. All right, let's double check our temperature. 216, 218, 219. It seems to be holding, so I think we are good to go. You guys can see this. Look at it. So beautiful. It smells so good. I think since it's almost done in here, we're just going to change out the filter. Make sure it's filtering well. Okay. Look at all that sediment it caught. I don't know if you can see it inside here. I don't know if you can see. I don't want to touch it because it's like boiling hot. Alright, so for our first canning of maple syrup this season, we got 12 pints. There's about a pint and a half left in here that I can't get canned up now because I didn't sanitize enough mason jars. I didn't think I needed it. But I'll get this canned up later off camera. But I'm going to clean up, and then we're going to start working on doing maple powder from our syrup from last year. So I originally had filled this whole pot with all of our leftover maple syrup from last year, but I had to transfer it into a smaller pot. So maple powder, you're going to boil it to roughly 260 degrees. So at that point there's zero moisture, zero water left in the maple syrup. So as it's boiling, the boil is going to rise and it could overfill the pot. So I have it in a smaller pot so I have better control over it. And then also too, when it's time to whisk it, it's easier to manage in a smaller quantity. So we're gonna get this boiling. While it's boiling, do not stir it. It'll hinder the crystallization of the sugars in there. So we'll just monitor it with temperature, and then when it's time, I'll bring you back and we can whisk it up. All right, so I had to transfer this to a larger pot. I felt like the amount that I had in there, it would just boil up and make a big mess. So I put this into a larger pot. What we're gonna do now is take some butter here, and we're just gonna line the brim here. So as the maple syrup boils up, once it hits that butter line, it will keep the boil from coming over. It'll just bring it back down. All right, we reached that 260. It's not working. All right, so that did not work out at all. So I took it off camera trying to use like hand mix or like beaters to get more air in there, more vigorous, trying to get it to turn powder. Did not work. So I put it back on the stove, added more maple syrup so to break down the thick maple gooiness that I had going on, which wasn't syrup, wasn't powder, so it'll dilute that. Then I add a little bit more water, hoping that will break down this right here, this gooey mess I have here. So now I no longer have even syrup, so I need to boil off the water to get to the syrup, and then boil off all the water to get to the powder. So we're back to square one. All right, attempt number 2 today. We also had attempts yesterday, so let's see how this goes now. I don't know why that's not working. It is literally, nothing's even starting. I don't understand why I'm having an issue with it this year. I don't get it. So maple powder did not turn out at all. This is what I got when I tried to do a smaller batch in here, trying to do the hand mixer, thinking maybe I had too much in here. So this is what I got in here. So I thought maybe there was too much in here, so I put some in there, stirred it, same result. Like, it's just not, I don't know what's going on. I've never had this issue before. It's not turning to powder. It's like the sticky, I mean, it's not sticky to your fingers, but it feels like Play-Doh. It's the best way to describe it. It feels like Play-Doh. And in the process of trying to do this, I have ruined my hand mixer here. It started smelling really bad. No smoke or anything coming out of it, but it definitely burned out. So I need to get a new one of those. So I don't know what we're gonna do. I have a post out on some Facebook pages from homesteading, trying to figure out if anyone has any suggestions of what is going on with my syrup here. So unfortunately, this video will not have maple powder, but we do have a maple powder making video that we did last year. So I'll have a link for that down in the description, so at least you can check that out and see how we make maple powder. Fortunately, this year it did not turn out. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for following our homesteading journey to self-sufficiency, and thanks for watching.